If I were a star college basketball player, I would least like to be drafted by Orlando, Houston, Sacramento, or the Knicks, or other. Let me start with Tim Legler with that question, the ESPN NBA analyst and one of the great shooters in NBA history. Hate to go negative to start out here, Legs, but would you rather be the team that you would least likely to be drafted by or want to be drafted by, Orlando, Houston, Sacramento, or the Knicks?
I would say the Kings. I didn't take long to get that answer,
No,
did I?
you didn't.
No, I just think, look at the track record of the organization and the track record of guys that they've drafted at the top of the lottery. I mean, number one, they don't seem to really develop there. And two, they don't seem to stay there very long. So if I were a top pick, rather than maybe have a few wasted years at the beginning of my career, maybe you'd be better off in a healthier organization because they've had a very difficult time getting anything right.
We would look at drafts sometimes, and you wouldn't take the best player. You would take the player that you thought was best for you. And teams the draft is littered with teams who made these mistakes where you go, we got to go get a big guy. Wait, but Michael Jordan's, nope, you got to go after a big guy there. But I wonder about today's NBA. Chet Holmgren is a big guy, but he's not that prototypical big guy down low. So if you're looking at Orlando, would you buy into Chet Holmgren with the limited sample size we saw at Gonzaga?
Yeah, I would. I've seen him play enough to look at the skill set there, Dan. I mean, this guy's a special talent. Now, obviously, that body type has got to change a little bit. But you look at Kevin Durant coming out. I know they're different players, and Kevin Durant's one of the greatest scorers this league's ever seen. So that's not necessarily a comparison. But what I'm saying is the body type. Kevin Durant never really did develop. He clearly got stronger to play through contact than he did in his first few years in the league. You could ride his hip and knock him off balance, and he was an inefficient player early on. And he was able to get stronger functionally to play through it. Chet Holmgren absolutely needs to add some weight, some bulk, some strength. But when you look at him handle the ball in the open floor, and you look at his vision and passing ability and his ability to step out and shoot, and probably for me, the real differentiating factor would be the ground this guy covers defensively. I mean, he is an elite level weak side defender at what's probably going to end up being a small forward position. This is one of the best rim protecting small forwards we've ever seen come into this league with the ground he covers and his instincts for being there at the right time. So you add all that up, I think Chet Holmgren, it's going to take some time. You got to be patient because the guy can't weigh more than 180 pounds. I'd be shocked if he weighs more than that. You're going to have to develop that body, but the skill set, man, is special.
I like how he's a 7-footer, and we're talking about him being a small forward. We got to get rid of these labels, Legs. I talked about this yesterday. Nobody is mentioning LeBron James as the greatest point guard of all time or second to Magic. Like when we talk point guards, it'd be like, well, you got to put Chris Paul and you got Cousy and Nash and Stockton and why isn't LeBron the greatest point guard or Luka right now? He's a point guard, but we don't call them that. Why?
You're dead on. We don't, and I'm as guilty as anybody. I should do it because I've been referring to LeBron James as a point guard for a decade. I mean, that's really what he is. Let's be honest about it. The guy initiates every possession when he's on the floor. Well, isn't that what a point guard, the way we used to know it, what that means? Lead guard, point guard, whatever you want to call it. Luka Doncic, the same thing. You're 100% right. We don't because of the size of these players, and they're just not prototypical of what we think that's supposed to look like. But there's no question. And right now in today's game, there is not a player in the league that controls possessions to a greater extent than Luka Doncic. And that, to me, is the essence of what a point guard is.
We'll talk about that series coming up in a moment, talking to Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst. There's certain players who get to the postseason and become different players. I know that Michael Jordan and, some of these players, but like Reggie Miller was a different player in the postseason. Jimmy Butler, Tim Duncan, different player in the postseason. What is it about those players that it's just bigger the game, the bigger the moment for them, the bigger the performance?
Yeah, I completely agree with those guys. And Jimmy Butler's fascinating because to me, I mean, there's such an incredible leap that he takes in terms of his focus and his competitiveness almost. I've described him often as the greatest boring player I've ever watched in my life, right? Because he doesn't do any of the stuff that wow us. He's a guy that's going to operate mainly in the mid-range area of the floor. He's going to get to the line a lot. That's not exactly exciting. I mean, he D's up when it's this time of the year, but he's not doing those things that are the eye candy that we love to watch, like some of these other great players in the league are. He's so methodical about it, but clearly, and Eric Spoelstra alluded to this last night, there's something about certain guys that they really only get the hair on their neck up when something dramatic is on the line. And that's the case, obviously, in the postseason. And he was spectacular last night. And he completely took over that game in the third quarter, really on both ends of the floor, and gave them a 1-0 lead in a series. I picked Boston to win, but of course I didn't know Horford and Smart were going to be out. So we'll see how it goes now. Those guys don't play in game two. When they go down 2-0, beating a team that's that well coached, that's that good defensively, 4 out of 5 is going to be a tall order for Boston.
I had to laugh that your fellow ESPNer, Jay Williams, said that, we have slighted the Miami Heat. And I wanted to say to Jay, your network slighted the Miami Heat because you guys spent an entire year talking about the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets. Miami Heat were the best team record-wise in the East. But there's no drama there. There's no clickbait there. I mean, that's how we cover sports now, where you go, we probably talk more about the Lakers now, and they've been out of the postseason, than we have been the Miami Heat in the postseason.
No, it's a great call. And, when they made the changes in the offseason, I thought the Miami Heat had a great chance to get to the finals because they added PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry, right? So all that playoff experience of Lowry, the toughness of PJ Tucker, like things that they needed. But here's why. When you look at the other teams that we're talking about all the time in the East, it's because of what I just said. They've got the eye candy players. They've got Giannis. They've got Embiid and Harden. They've got Durant and Kyrie. They've got Jason Tatum. Nobody on Miami really looks like that, even though Jimmy Butler's a great player. Bam Adebayo is an all-star, one of the best defensive centers in the league, one of the most versatile big guys in the league. They don't do the things that tantalize us, that make us want to talk about them every night. So instead, and I think Eric Spoelstra is perfectly fine with that. Let's just show up every day, be professional about what we do, end up with the number 1 seed, and be incredibly difficult to operate against in those moments. And that's exactly what they did last night. It was very impressive the way they turned it up against them coming out of the locker room.
I'm curious, the gamesmanship, the game of verbal ping pong with Luka and Draymond Green. Verbal bouquets right now. Everybody, Draymond's one of my favorite players. Love the way he plays. Luka's unbelievable. He's unstoppable. How long does this last, Tim?
I would say probably within the first 8 seconds of the game, there's going to be some sort of a verbal back and forth. The first time Luka, goes into the lane and tries to back somebody down and throws his arms into somebody, gets a call. Draymond will immediately start in, and at no point over the next 6 or 7 games, however long it lasts, will Draymond stop talking about what Luka's doing, and vice versa. This is going to be fascinating because there is a whole nother layer to Luka that has to just drive players insane, and it's the constant smiling, the grinning, the look on his face of, man, am I having fun out here, and God, is this easy. And what drives think about it, Dan. I was thinking about the other day when he was doing it to Booker, right, in that game. And it started off, he was doing it, by the way, not when they were up 40. He hit his first 2 threes of the game and he was grinning like that. He knew something, right, that nobody else knew in that moment, which is, I am in a great place right now mentally, and I am by far the best player on the floor. We're going to be just fine. But I was thinking, imagine anything you did competitively in your life, right? You go play golf with 3 of your buddies, and every shot a guy hits for 4 hours, he's laughing, and you can't beat him. Or you're in a boxing match and a guy's tuning you up and then steps back between jabs and just grins at you. Like, what could get under your skin more? And that's what Luka is doing to people right now. And it's going to get chippy, physical, however you want to describe it. The bottom line is, I don't think anybody is capable of getting this guy off his game. The pace he plays with, his physical strength, the way he anticipates what's coming his way. I just don't think he's affected by anything that's in front of him. He is so unique and so fascinating because of it.
It would bother me more if a guy just grinned as opposed to smack talk.
Oh, I agree.
Right? Like that's going to hurt.
Agree.
When you laugh, you're laughing at me. Like if you want to go back and forth and we exchange words, that's one thing. But when you're just laughing, you don't have to say a word. Oh man, because Booker is he's not even making eye contact. He's just staring straight ahead, and Luke is like looking up at him like, hey, you mad, bro?
It's just that picture it did make me laugh out loud just because the nature of it. He's looking up like he literally, if I could put a thought bubble on Luka Doncic at that moment, it looked like he was saying, it's going to be okay, little buddy. You'll be all right. Yeah, you'll get one to drop. Don't worry. Keep trying. And then if he makes one, literally, he's at the point almost where in that game, he was going to be like, there you go, right? See, it's fun making shots. When it goes in, it's a lot more fun. Like, I just can't think of anything more galling. At one point, he went in there, he got hit, converted, and literally was smiling, and it took his hands and kind of like rubbed his hands through his hair like a model. And I'm going, what is happening out here? And so look, he is special. Obviously, this guy is something else, man. And I think Dan, halfway through his rookie year, I described him in this way. Larry Bird is my favorite athlete of all time. And I said, this guy kind of reminds me of Bird, but with a better handle and a quicker first step. Now think about that combination. That's kind of what we have. He's got the nerve. He's got he's not as pure a shooter as Bird, but in some ways more lethal because he can string together shots from deep, off the dribble that Larry really didn't do. And so for me, the IQ, obviously, the passing ability, he's incredible. And that's why I think Dallas has a legitimate shot in the series. I'm picking Golden State to win the series, but this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, I've mentioned this before. There's certain players, and I liken them to, if we were going to attach music to their game, it's jazz. There's a jazz feel to Kawhi Leonard that he just moves at his own pace. And the same with Luka. In a sport where athleticism is always on display with speed, being able to jump, quickness, they get to where they need to go. You know where they're going to go, but you can't stop them. It's just one of those weird dynamics about basketball that I don't know if you can explain certain players being able to do it in a certain way at their own speed.
Yeah, completely. And I watched some of the guys guarding him right now. I mean, look at Mikal Bridges. He was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. The guy's got, it's like a 7'2" wingspan. He's 6'8". He's committed to it. And he had no ability physically to dictate anything to Luka Doncic. Like the great defensive players in this league, typically the reason that we talk about him in that vein, Dan, is because they dictate terms to a certain extent. Now, look, you're going to have great players make shots on guys. But over the course of 48 minutes, they are dictating what they're going to allow you to do because they're that strong, they're that quick, they're that relentless. And Bridges wasn't able to really do any of that to Luka Doncic. And look, Draymond Green is not going to get a ton of him. He'll get him on some switches. This is going to be more about Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins than anything else because they've got the size, length, strength. But when you watch what Luka's about to do to those guys, he hits them with that shoulder on the back down. He knocks you backwards, and then he spins away to get to that fadeaway. There's just not a lot you can do. And if you want to run somebody at him, okay, here comes Dorian Finney-Smith and Bullock and Jalen Brunson and Bertans and all these guys, Kleba, and they can make 18 threes in a game. That's why it's going to be fascinating to me. The number one thing I'm looking for tonight is not the initial coverage. What does Steve Kerr do as the game progresses, as the series progresses, to mix up coverages on him? Because you cannot give him a steady dose of anything in one game because that's a formula for disaster if you're Golden State.
Always great to catch up with you, Legs. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime, Dan. Talk to you soon.
That's Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst, knows a thing or two about shooting. We have our play of the day coming up, and we'll settle on our poll question. We're back after this. Dan Patrick Show.